working with Stone Cold, who was the one that told you you'd be doing that character with Stone Cold?
Let me think. Well, they put me on the road, and I was traveling with Renee, Rob Conway, Garrison, Cade on Raw, and doing house shows.
Renee Dupree?
Yeah, and dark matches. And I'm trying to remember how they presented that, man. It was in Chicago. Stone Cold had gotten kicked out of the arena. I think Bischoff had put him out the building. And I was standing outside, and excuse me, the gist was like, I went up to talk to him as a starstruck fan, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, Stone Cold, I mean, my dream is to try to make it in wrestling, you know? And I was like, I bought a ticket to come to the show tonight. He's like, oh, you have a ticket? He's like, come over here, let me talk to you. So basically, he sweet talked me and getting my ticket to get back in. And the next week, I don't actually remember who gave the idea.
Were you excited? Because he was just coming off his big run.
Yeah, man. Well, Stone Cold's one of my favorites, and that was Raw, so it's live, man. It's like, you know, stress, bro. You know, like, okay, we're going live. Don't screw this up. And the next week, we did another backstage deal where I gave him the tape to try to look at, petition for a chance, you know. And then I think the following week, I got my tryout match, I think from him or the general manager, with Hurricane against La Resistance, and it was in a military town, like, I forget where it was, where they have an army base. It was all military around, and it was cool because La Resistance was hated, you know?
Yeah.
And we beat them up, and I went and got the American flag, you know, and everybody was happy, so it was awesome debut, you know? With the you know, that was John Heidenreich, actually. Yeah. I didn't have any intro music. I had some generic stuff that Paul Heyman's like, that's terrible, we got to change that. And they made that Heidenreich song, which was killer. But
Heyman was a writer back then?
Yeah. Well, when I went to SmackDown, he was like, when they reinvented me, he was like, we're gonna get rid of this whole John Heidenreich thing, you know.
So what happened, like, with that? First of all, you had this gimmick, and
I wrestled them, and I actually did a mixed tag with me and Trish against Victoria and Stevie Richards. That match went well. That was on Raw, and we won. And then I'm trying to think, I did several things with Hurricane. You know, backstage, things that were funny.
Like they were going to push you.
Yeah, Hurricane with Rosie. Remember, he was the reporter guy, you know? Because he was a superhero in training, which we won't say what it stands for, but...
Yeah.
Right? But, and actually what happened, I remember I injured my quad. I got a hematoma, and it sounds crazy, because normally it's a thigh bruise from, like, something hitting you. Pretty violent impact, which forms, it can be really bad, you know.
Yeah.
I actually went, I was in a match with Hurricane, I think maybe, or something, and I went to go over the top rope, and my leg just, as I went over, I got like stuck and didn't go completely, and I just rolled down the rope on my thigh, and believe it or not, that force of that rope ended up, by the end of that show that night, I couldn't walk. My leg is swollen. I thought I had broke my leg. It hurt so bad.
And so people that don't know, it hurts even just hitting the ropes.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, you got to develop all your body parts to take that impact. You know, that was just this example of when you hit that rope wrong. It basically gave me like a hematoma, like you get in football from a guy hitting you with his helmet.
Yeah.
Because I had to. I mean, that's what ended my push right there, because I couldn't walk. I had to go to therapy at Tulane Rehab, Tulane University. And that was like 4 weeks. I couldn't walk for like 2 weeks. You know, my legs swole. They took extras because it wasn't broken, but I was unable to wrestle. I couldn't bend my leg. So that, man, I was very frustrated, because I was like, oh my God, I hope they don't fire me, you know. I don't want to be gone very long, because it's just not good in wrestling to be getting paid and not being productive. But anyway, that ended that little Johnny thing, because I mean, I had done a lot of vignettes, like stuff with Trish Stratus, where when Jericho and her were doing a deal where she's like, oh, don't worry about, he's like, yeah, Heidenreich's crazy, man, you shouldn't trust that guy. She's like, oh, don't worry about little Johnny. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, he showed me little Johnny, you know, like, he's like, that's wonky, man, that guy, you know. So the thing was getting, we were getting vignettes and in-ring stuff with that, but that injury was what, you know, sidelined that.